Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense, your favorite podcast on the entire internet. Me and John are going to talk about some pro wrestling things, whether or not they make sense. It's a very easy concept. Can't go wrong with that. So I think this week we're going to talk about High Revolution, All Elite Wrestling's High Revolution. Last week we did like a little preview of it to kind of, see what we thought. I think the most prevailing thing about it was that a lot of the matches didn't like have great build to them. Like they had build, right? But that doesn't mean it was any good. Like for example, Jericho and MJF, they were doing funny skits together, haha. But does that like justify a match between the two of them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
The build for a lot of them was kind of questionable. But there was we thought it looked like there were going to be some good matches on the show, right?
Oh yeah.
So I said I wasn't gonna watch another All Elite Wrestling show on this show before, but you said that the show wasn't bad, that it was a marked improvement over their last show, which is the bare minimum, I think. If it was worse than that show, I don't know what the fuck I would have done. So I wanted to watch the main event, so I downloaded it. I watched some of it.
Right.
I watched most of it. First off, still a pretty long show.
Yeah, it's like almost 4 hours, was it?
Yeah. All the matches were really long, and some of them you definitely could have trimmed that, some of those matches down a little bit. But that's the thing, like there's nobody to tell them no. So like this is the thing, like they do these 20-minute matches on these pay-per-views, right? Then they do 20 minutes on free TV anyway. So like, big whoop. The first match was Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page, right?
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to watch this match because, we've heard so much about Kenny Omega, and now he's finally got the chance to fucking show it off. Which is interesting that you'd have this guy for a year and you just wouldn't fucking use him, because even the commentators were like, finally we're going to see the old Kenny Omega. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, he should have been here. You all put up with a year of him just dicking around. Yeah, I liked his music.
Yeah, well, the extra special entrance with the sweeper ladies,
I mean, that shit I didn't care for.
Okay.
It was kind of funny, like, but it just seems weird. Do you know what I mean? Like, just these two girls come out with two old ass looking brooms, and they just do a little sweepy thing. They're like, look, we got brooms, and I'm like, okay. And then they just walked away. It's like, see ya. Like I didn't, it's not a bombastic entrance, is it? It's just two girls come over with brooms. Triple H came in with a fucking motorbike or whatever. And Kenny Omega's going out with two girls with brooms. Even the Brood had to wait. Like, all they did was turn the lights off and spit some blood. But good lord, that was a great entrance, That's Kenny Omega needs to take some inspiration from those guys. What did you think about this match?
I really enjoyed it. I thought the story coming into it was pretty strong with like Omega and Page being former tag team partners, and then losing the titles, and Omega kind of getting this sort of ego and like you said, going off and wanting to be a single star again, and kind of being the Kenny Omega that everyone sort of considered the best wrestler in the world like a few years ago. So it was kind of cool to see him in that role again. I've never been a huge fan of Kenny Omega, to be honest, but this was sort of a situation where I found myself really enjoying like him sort of subtly healing it up, and having this back and forth with Hangman Page as well. So I thought this was probably my favorite match on the entire show.
Honestly, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one. I thought it was good. Oh, it was fun to watch.
Mm.
Finally we're gonna get the Kenny Omega of old, which tells you a lot, man. Because quote unquote, the Young Bucks said something like they kind of spent this whole first year like putting people over and like building other people up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if Kenny Omega has been working at fucking half speed for the last year to put people over, you know what I mean? Like, who gives a fuck?
Mm.
Like, right? Like, if Kenny Omega's working at fucking full steam and you beat him, that's supposed to be a big deal, right?
Yeah.
You can't just go, oh well, he just took this year off as an excuse, because then what the fuck, man. Yeah, this one has like some build to it. I didn't totally agree with all the build to it. Like I said, like at the last show, I didn't really like the way that the team split up and the whole build into that mess. I didn't like that. But at least it had some build, which is something. I thought the match was good. Both guys can work. They didn't do anything like outrageously stupid.
No. But
I thought,
that's the thing. It was just like a solid, back and forth wrestling match.
yeah, it was just a good, fun match, right? So I was like, okay, cool. I hope the rest of the show is like this. And I don't know why. It's like tempting fate, Never have a good thought about only wrestling because I'll fuck it up. So that was fun, right? Good. It was a really good opener, right? Good way to start the show. I liked it. So, the second match, was that the Orange Cassidy one?
Yeah, against John Silver of the Dark Order.
Yeah. This one, I mean, that guy, John Silver, seems like, and he's an impressive dude, right? He's got a good look, and he's, he did some really fun stuff in that match.
Yeah.
Like impressive, like feats of strength, like the fucking one-handed, like gorilla press slam. Like shit like that, right? Fucking cool. And Orange Cassidy, we've all seen him before. He's fine,
He's an acquired taste.
Yeah, like he's a good worker, but the gimmick's a little like, like why would this guy be a wrestler?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're that lazy, I'm not lazy. I'm not a professional wrestler because I would take up a lot of my lazing around time. What did you think of this one?
I quite enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't, the greatest match of all time or anything, but I think it achieved what it set out to do, which was showcase John Silver and, elevate him a bit by putting him in the ring with Orange Cassidy. I think it wasn't just the feats of strength, which were impressive, but the character work as well. He's been standing out as a character on Dynamite for like the past few weeks or so, which apparently is something that's been happening on Being the Elite and Dark as well. Like he's been getting a bit of a spotlight there, which is why it's sort of started rolling over onto Dynamite and the pay-per-view. So it's good to see him kind of being given this opportunity and taking it. So that's really good to see. But at the same time, you kind of think, well, where's Brody Lee gone? Like he was the big deal. He was the TNT champion not long ago, and since losing that title, he's pretty much disappeared into the background.
I'd like to talk about Brody Lee in a little bit once we get to that wonderful TNT championship match. But I agree with you. Like this whole Dark Order thing, right? I think we've said enough about it.
Yeah, it's very much like Retribution in WWE. Just they've not done a good job with it.
No, but they're sticking with it.
Yes.
Also, now everybody's in a stupid stable. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And I assume we'll get to that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this match was fine. It was okay. And then we had the NXT. Then it was a TNT championship match, was it?
Yes.
Darby Allin versus Cody Rhodes. Now this apparently had some build to it because these guys have history.
Well, they kind of tried to play it off like that, but they just did such a piss poor job of highlighting that in the build up because, Cody was off doing his thing with Orange Cassidy for so long. Um, and, Darby Allin pretty much hadn't wrestled on Dynamite for weeks on end. It was just those vignettes. Vignettes.
I
Yeah.
say vignettes, but you can
Vignettes.
pronounce it however you wish.
Yeah, it was just those videos that
Yep.
he kept sending in with him doing dumb stuff, which I'll be honest, it didn't really make me excited to see him as a title challenger. But
One of them was him getting hit by a car.
yeah,
What the fuck?
I think it was all like the stupid metaphors he was trying to do as well. Like it's just, I don't know. The thing about all that stuff is it just screams of, oh, he's trying too hard. Like,
hmm
the whole gimmick kind of comes across like that as well, with his like half painted face. Because what's the reason for it? Like, half of him's dead or something.
Wasn't
Ugh.
that it though? Did
Yeah,
we talk
it's
about this? I think somebody said to me that that was what it was.
it
He was like
sounds,
half dead inside or something.
yeah.
Well, what
But
a great excuse.
I don't know. He's never really appealed to me, Darby Allin, but I guess in sort of that Jeff Hardy sort of way, a lot of other people really dig him and stuff. But
Mm.
I will say I did like his selling in this match, selling of the arm, which
hmm
was done really well all the way through. So I'll give him that.
Right. I know that like I think Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes were kind of like earlier in the year they were kind of like not friends exactly, but they were on the same page
Mm,
because Darby Allin would help him run off the dastardly Dark Order who definitely need people to keep them at bay because they're such an effective heel group. And so now they're like, oh no, they hate each other, but they don't really hate each other, but they do because Cody was a heel and a dick, but not really because at the end he just gave him the belt very
yeah.
politely. So I'm like, cool, all right, makes total sense. So Brody Lee beat Cody Rhodes for the championship, and I think at the end of August.
Something like that, yeah.
And Brody Lee, like, so finally the Dark Order were gonna do something. Finally, it felt like some, things were turning around. So then they bumbled around for the next 2 months or whatever, and Cody Rhodes came back and beat Brody Lee for the TNT Championship at sometime in October,
Mm-hmm.
beginning of October.
Yeah.
And, and then Cody, 3 weeks later, drops it to Darby Allin.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And they make it seem like it's a big deal, like Cody lost the belt and yada yada, which is silly because
Mm-hmm.
he just won it. Do you know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like such a like if either Cody Rhodes had remained TNT champion all summer and then Darby Allin beat him now, that would have been impressive for Darby Allin. Or if Brody Lee was still the champion, big imposing dude. Darby Allin looked small compared to Cody. He looked
Mm.
really small. So him versus fucking Brody Lee, that would have looked really good. You got a real underdog story there. You could have had Brody Lee being this fucking unstoppable guy that nobody could beat. Darby Allin comes in. Oh, hey, Darby Allin manages to pull one out of the bag.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that have been a great story?
Absolutely. And when you think about it as well, they kind of really rushed into the Cody rematch with Brody Lee, like the making it a dog collar match as well, when there was no reason whatsoever for it to be a dog collar match. They hadn't used a dog collar or a chain or anything in the build up. Well, not even in the build up because there was no build up. Like Cody
Right.
returned and then Brody Lee challenged him to a dog collar match. It was just like, what? Where's the progression here?
Exactly.
If they'd gone with Brody versus Darby Allin, you could have had Cody show up after that match where Darby Allin scores the upset win, and then you got the Dark Order sort of surrounding him or whatever. Then Cody could have made his triumphant return and saved the day, and gone after Brody Lee, and then you could have built up to the dog collar match between the two of them. But instead, it's just, I don't know, it's just really weird booking that doesn't really make sense.
What makes it perfect for this show then? But your storyline, which sounded great, leads to Brody Lee versus Cody, but it also perfectly leads to Darby Allin versus Cody.
Mm-hmm.
Like that all, like you can layer that in, like that makes sense, but they didn't do that, and I think it's very telling that they thought it would mean more for Darby Allin to beat Cody Rhodes, who was already very well established before this company started, instead of Brody Lee, a guy that they should be using to build him up the way he wasn't used in another company. That's what they should be doing. They should be making these stars, right? We've talked about this before too. They're not building people properly, and this could have been a really good way to build up Brody Lee and Darby Allin. But they didn't. They stuck Cody Rhodes in there when they clearly didn't have to. They rushed him back to beat Brody Lee, and they rushed him back to drop the title to Darby Allin. But it's very telling, I think, and we're gonna see some more of that later on.
But it was good to see that they have already set up like Darby Allin's first potential challenger as well, with Brian Cage and Ricky Starks like attacking him after the match and like attempting to. I guess they were trying to put him through his own car or something, or break his arm in the door or whatever it was. But
yeah.
So yeah, it's like pretty cool that at least they're pushing forward and trying to set stuff up for the future there.
A couple of points about that as well. Number one, is Brian Cage still the FTW champion?
Well, he's still carrying it around.
I didn't see him with it tonight.
He definitely had it with him on Dynamite last week.
Well, it's good that they're sticking with that storyline. That will definitely pay off sometime in the future. The second point, Cody Rhodes came to the ring with a huge entourage. And then Taz and his boys came up and beat up Darby Allin pretty good. They beat up Arn Anderson, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Which is hard to do. 3 guys taking on Arn Anderson, Whoa, dastardly heels. What happened to the rest of Cody Rhodes' entourage? Why couldn't they come down to help out Arn Anderson and Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin?
I don't know.
That would have evened the numbers so bad that it would have turned it into a disadvantage against the heel group.
Yeah.
Right? That wouldn't have made sense. But also, why clearly show those guys bringing Cody to the ring and being on Cody's side 20 minutes before this? What happened to them? Later on, not that soon after that, fucking quick time Marshall. Why do they say Marshall instead of Marshall?
Oh, I have no idea.
It's annoying the fuck out of me. But quick time Marshall and Dustin Rhodes are backstage, and they're cutting a promo about what they're going to do next week on Dynamite. You mean they're right there?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, what?
And not only that, but like the Gun Club as well, who came out with like Cody's entourage, pretty much. Yeah, they spend that entire show on the front row.
What? Who cares if they're in your group if they don't do anything in your group? They made a big deal about announcing how Billy Gunn and his son were now in the Cody Rhodes family.
Yeah.
But like they didn't do anything. So who the fuck cares? Anyway. So that was, little things that annoyed me. The match was fun.
Yeah.
For the most part. But like I said, like the build up and the shit that happened afterwards and all that stuff. I think I would have rather see Brody Lee versus Darby Allin.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a better story. But what do we know? Then it was the women's match, right?
Yep.
All right. I like Hikaru Shida. I think she's growing on me the more I see of her, right? I like her. Nyla Rose has the opposite effect. She's got the Nia Jackson going on, where you're like, the more I see of this person, the more it seems like they're not getting better. This match is weird because I don't know. I started off liking it and I just didn't like it by the end.
Yeah.
Like Shida hurt her leg, right? So all the way she's like selling her leg, and in the last section of the match, she does a flurry of stuff that all involves her bad leg.
Yeah.
Like she's running against the ropes and she's kneeing Nyla Rose in the face with her bad knee, like 4 times with the bad knee, and then that's the finish.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck, right? What? Also, there was a bit where they're on the outside, and Nyla Rose who is bigger than every single woman on the All Elite Wrestling female division, right?
Yep.
Is getting thrown around by Hikaru Shida, and is getting beat up so badly that Vicky Guerrero has to come and try to interfere with a kendo stick, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way you do that. Come on, man. Nyla Rose should be beating the fuck out of all these people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Then there was a bit where Nyla Rose did the cocky, goes for the pin, but then lifts the opponent's shoulders off the mat.
Mm.
But she did like fuck all to Shida. Like, she would have kicked out anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, you didn't need to do that bit because you didn't do anything to her before that. I did like it when Cheetah did it to Nyla Rose later in the match. I'm like, that's a nice callback. If only they'd worked the match better, so that would have made sense, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't know about that. What did you think about this?
I mean, I think I liked the story that they were trying to do in theory better than the execution. Like the whole thing with Shida kind of, she's not being intimidated by Nyla Rose anymore. She's kind of grown in confidence since they last fought, and so this time around she was like taking the fight to Shida and being all aggressive and stuff, and yeah, it made for a good story in practice, but like it was just quite a sloppy match and a bit sort of disjointed, and yeah, and like I wasn't a huge fan of the finish as well. Like it just looked bad to be honest. Like she hit the like that running knee to the back, and then kind of four really tired looking, weak looking knees like in a row straight to Nyla Rose's face, with the last one in particular just looking like, it wouldn't have hurt a fly basically. Yeah, that's the one that kind of won of the match, which felt like it came from out of nowhere. And I don't know. I don't think it really did Nyla Rose any favors. But oh well. I mean, as long as that's moving Nyla out of the title picture and hopefully, opening the door for Britt Baker to come in, then I'm more excited for that than what we saw on this pay-per-view.
Yeah, they don't seem to be very good at coming up with finishes, do they?
No.
Because this one had a shitty finish, and the last match, the Cody Rhodes match, had a weird finish where like they were doing a series of like roll-ups, pin attempts, and then Darby Allin gets it, right?
Yeah.
And Cody Rhodes looks really frustrated, like oh, you caught me, after like a 20-minute match where Darby Allin already hit his fucking finisher on Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes kicked out. Why wasn't that the finish?
Yeah.
That's why they call it a finisher. But FYI, I don't like that finish. I think
What the coffin drop? Yeah.
It's dumb. But anyway, that doesn't even matter, right? Because finishers doesn't clearly in this world, a finisher doesn't mean a finisher, right? One thing I thought about the women's match, Hikaru Shida suplexing Nyla Rose looks impressive, right?
Yeah, but it was
the first time.
It's a bit sloppy.
Right, well, because she's big.
Yeah.
But she fucking did that 4 times in that match, including one off the top rope. It's less impressive the 4th time. Remember whenever Hulk Hogan slammed Andre the Giant at WrestleMania, and then he kept slamming him, and he slammed him off the top rope. People were like, well, it looks like he can just slam him. Fucking big deal, Why would anybody care? Like, that's a shame, I don't know. So that was what it was. I think the tag match was next, wasn't it?
Yep.
All right. Do you want to talk about this before I start talking about it?
Okie dokie. Well, I'll tell you what. It was a bit of a slow starter, I thought. I kind of, by design, I guess, it felt like they were sort of, feeling one another out, and waiting to kind of build up and kick into high gear, which you can understand. That's the match that they've been waiting to have the past 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it's been. So they didn't need to kind of jump straight into things full force. But as it went on, like, I found myself enjoying it a lot more, and I got to say, I did love all the little tributes to some of the other tag teams out there, like the Hart Foundation and the Steiner brothers, and when they did the 3D, and even like DIY shout out as well, which I thought was a bit surprising, but a welcome surprise. So that played off, obviously FDR's history. But yeah, like I thought it ended up being pretty damn good. Maybe not the match which met expectations for everyone thinking this was going to be like the greatest tag team match of all time. I wouldn't say that at all, but yeah, it was another one as well which the finish didn't really do anything for me as well. It was a bit weak and out of nowhere, and I guess like it made sense that Wheeler going for like the springboard 450 splash and trying to do a flip rather than sticking with the fists is what cost him the match. But like when the Young Bucks hit so many super kicks in a match and don't win off of them, when Matt just hits one and then pins him, it's like, wow, what the fuck? How did that happen?
After being hit with every single tag team finishing move.
Yeah.
It was just like that wasn't good enough. Like that, like, we've seen that kind of thing before, doing all the moves. They did a lot of moves. There was a lot of tag team finishing moves involved in that match, and it didn't finish anybody. So you're like, well, like if I was the people who did those moves, I'd be pissed off. Because I'm like, well, you made us look like our finishing moves fucking suck. All you had to do is kick a guy in the face, and that was it. Although they did kick people in the face earlier in the match a lot. I don't know, dude. I didn't like this match. I thought it was a Young Bucks match. And they were, maybe I shouldn't be that surprised that the Young Bucks were involved in a Young Bucks match. But, like, they had FTR in there. And instead of, like, FTR saying, no, we're going to have a wrestling match, they said, no, we'll just do whatever you want to do. And it was just the Young Bucks match. Nobody sold nothing. But there's a bit where, like, one of the Bucks is threatening to hit one of the guys in the Revival with a chair.
Yeah.
In the middle of the ring. And the referee's just like, don't do it. Like, what the fuck? Why didn't the referee pick the chair up? Just sitting there watching it.
I mean, the referee was it Mike Chioda in that match, or was he in one of the earlier matches?
Was he in the opening match?
No, I think he might have been in the TNT title match.
That's what it was, the Cody match, yeah. The referee's just fucking looking at the Buck like, uh-oh. You take the match. I thought the Revival's matches were supposed to have rules. What the hell? Fucking, here's the annoying thing, right? Apparently, Matt Jackson legitimately has like an injured leg. So, smart thing, first of all, he starts the match. What the fuck, right? They were like, the commentators were like, oh, isn't he brave for starting the match with an injured leg? I'm like, no, he's an idiot for number one, starting the match with an injured leg. Number two, having this match to begin with an injured leg, because they're gonna go 20 minutes, and they're just gonna, and they're gonna do everything themselves. Was this the same Buck that injured himself doing all those Northern Lights suplexes across a football stadium?
Yes.
I hate this guy.
Yeah.
Because you know how you could have avoided some of these injuries? Not doing this dumb shit. Didn't he injure his leg by jumping off something? Off a Titantron or something?
That's what I heard. Remember. Yeah, possibly.
Right. Well, anyway, doesn't need to do any of this shit, but yet they're going to do it anyway because, aren't the Young Bucks brave? No, that it really looks gimmick that they did this entire fucking 20-minute match by doing everybody's finishing moves, and this guy had a sore leg, but yet was still able to do everything he always did with his sore leg, except for a couple of like, I'm selling it this time. When it was part of the match to do the sell, that's when he stole the leg.
Mm.
And I'm like, it's not supposed to write it as a script, my friend. Even like JR said something which, honest to God, shows you why JR is smarter than all of the wrestlers in that company, including the Young Bucks. He said, "Oh, Matt Jackson, he's injured. What he needs to do is focus on doing something else. He's trying to go for moves that he can't do because his leg is injured. He needs to try and be inventive and come up with a new play, right? That's the way it's supposed to be. The heels have targeted a part of your body and have injured it. You have to like work around that and figure out a new way to win the match. That's the point."
Yeah.
They didn't do any of that. They just kept doing all their shit. Right? And that's the thing. Once you see all of this shit in like one match, you're like, none of this means anything. It's so boring. Because it's not like watching, like, it's like watching somebody, you can set the computer to play by itself on No Mercy.
Mm-hmm.
That's boring. Because they take 20 minutes and they don't do anything. This is exactly the same. Like, they just do all this shit and it doesn't mean anything. I didn't like this match. And I feel like an idiot for watching it. Cash, who was doing all these, he did the 450 splash and he missed. He also did a dive off the top rope and he missed. He also jumped from the ring to one of the Bucks on the outside. He missed. I'm like, you know what you should do, man? Keep your feet in the ground. I thought that's what the Revival were supposed to do.
Yeah.
One time when Cash did he jumped on one of the Bucks off the top rope, the injured one, Matt Jackson, and Matt put his knees up to absorb the splash. Am I the only one who thinks that's idiotic?
Yeah.
He had a sore leg, and he puts his knees up, and Cash sells it worse than the Young Buck does. The Young Buck doesn't sell it at all. So a grown man just landed on the injured part of your body, and it hurt him more than you. I mean, that's not even hard. That's not even hard to figure out. I didn't like this match.
Well, I thought it was pretty good, but that's just me.
Well, that's fine. Like, some people, they can accept that a Young Bucks match is gonna have Young Bucks tropes to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you forget all that, then you take it for what it is. It's entertaining, right?
Yeah.
I get that. It's just not for me, Then there were two matches I didn't watch. I didn't watch the Matt Hardy match for good reason, because I just, I think I might kill somebody. It's so angry. I didn't have the time for that. Tell me, did I miss anything? By the way, don't say that I miss Hurricane Helms and Gangrel, because I already heard that seems to be the only thing anybody said about that match, which is a really bad thing if the only thing that people can say about a singles match between two competitors is the sudden appearance of two other random, already retired wrestlers. Well, I think Gangrel still wrestles, right?
Yeah, Gangrel still does. He looks in pretty good shape as well, considering the Attitude Era is 20 odd years ago. So, Jesus, yeah, fair play to him.
And they hired Luther.
Yeah.
Could have had a kick-ass vampire. So apart from Gangrel and Hurricane Helms, what did I miss about this match?
Well, I mean, it was just same old, really. If you've seen one of these matches once, you've pretty much seen all of them. It's, a bit of goofy stuff with Matt doing his faux English voice again for some apparent reason.
It's not English.
Well, it's supposed. I don't know what it is.
I know. We know what it's supposed to be.
It's just horrendous. But like it started off with with Sammy arriving on the Hardy compound on a golf cart, and then sick. Matt Hardy drives over the golf cart in a monster truck, and then they just started hitting each other for ages and ended up brawling over towards a wrestling ring that just happened to be set up outside. And then then
happened to be there.
Then you get Ortiz and Santana showing up and getting involved, and then Private Party coming in as backup, and then Then they bring out the fireworks, which we've seen before, and start shooting them at each other. And then, of course, you got to go to the Lake of Reincarnation because, that's what they do in these matches. They always go there. And so it's just really, really tired and boring. And, if people like it, fair play to them. But yeah, for me, I mean, it's well documented by now that we don't really enjoy these cinematic matches anyway. But good grief, I have zero interest in anything to do with Matt Hardy now. So yeah, this was a bit of a struggle to get through.
Yeah, but now they have the creative freedom to do whatever they want, so
But
must be good.
That kind of brings it to the end as well, which another finish which I didn't really like was they ended up brawling into the Dome of Deletion, which is just like Matt Hardy's garage basically. Yeah, and in there's like another ring set up, which
Well, like, dude, like at this point, you're it's just your house. Like, you don't have to you don't have to pretend that this is a wrestling match, dude. Like, we know, like, most of this is taking place by a lake. Like, we get it, man. It's not a wrestling match. You don't have to keep pretending.
But the thing that I didn't really like was they kind of, after fighting it out in the ring, like Sammy Guevara like removed a couple of the ropes just so he could hit Matt Hardy with like the kind of hook, connected them to the corner. But then they ended up doing a spot where Sammy's sort of on the apron, and then Matt spears him out of the ring through the gap in the ropes. And then Sammy, like, he goes through a table, and then they basically play off their last match with as if Sammy's smacked the back of his head against the concrete floor.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And so he's got like a little bit of a blood splotch on the back of his head, and yeah, he's like acting all out of it and stuff. And then,
God, are you serious?
Yeah, this is legit. And then Matt picks up a chair and he just like jabs him with it in the head. Like, it looks pretty sick. Like it probably connected. But yeah, Sammy goes down, and then Matt gives him like a one-man concerto with his head against the concrete floor. So it's like, I didn't really enjoy that because that's a bit too close to the bone after what happened last time. But hey ho.
That's stealing somebody else's finishing move. Edge used to do that. No, Christian. They both used to do that, right?
Yeah.
One man concerto. I gotta say, that's an incredibly poor taste for them to do that finish. Like, I get that it's the same guys involved, but like, dude, fuck that. That's unbelievable. I didn't know that's what the finish was. Holy shit. Fuck these guys.
Apparently the Hurricane cameo as well was supposed to play off the House Hardy Halloween special in WWE a couple of years ago, which I completely forgot this, but that ended with the Hurricane being sort of tied up and kidnapped. But then, WWE never followed up on it, so they kind of played off that in this to say that, because when Gangrel first shows up, he's in a hood and carrying like a Hurricane all tied up and stuff. So at least they got a bit of continuity in there, I guess.
Well, then 5 stars.
Yeah.
Hooray, they did it. Greatest wrestling match ever. All right, fuck those guys. What about, do you want to even talk about Jericho versus MJF? I didn't watch it, so I have no idea.
It wasn't a spectacular match. I thought it was a bit too slow paced for my tastes, and it was a bit weird as well that, after all this time Jericho's been healing it up in AEW, to see him leaning into a face roll again was a bit bizarre, and which I'm not against or anything, because I think that's the direction they're heading anyway. Like the whole thing with Maxwell, Jacob Freeman being brought into the inner circle is gonna, surely end with him usurping Jericho and Jericho getting kicked out of the group. So he'll probably be turning face at some point in the near future, officially. So, which again kind of makes sense with just the sing along that his entrance music gets. So, people want to cheer Jericho, so why not put him in that position where people can? But yeah, I don't know. It just felt a bit predictable, I guess. And again, like another ending to the match, which I wasn't blown away by, but it was with I think MJF tried to get the ring off Wardlow, but then before he could use it, Jericho was tossed the baseball bat that he's been using. I think his name's Floyd. But
why does everything have a name?
Oh, who knows? But yeah, so MJF did like the old Eddie Guerrero kind of falling on his back, pretending he'd been hit by the bat. And when Aubrey turns around and sees Jericho with the bat, he's like, protesting, saying, "No, I didn't do it. I didn't do it." And then MJF rolled him up with the tights, and that's how he won. But yeah,
It's another roll up finish.
Yeah.
For Schoolboy, small package. No, well, not with using a finishing move anyway. Yeah, I don't know, man. I thought this was a stupid match to have to begin with. So I didn't watch it, so I couldn't possibly comment on it. I'm probably not going to watch it. Should we talk about the main event?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but I certainly did. They were advertising some of the matches they're having on Dynamite, including Butcher and the Blade versus Quick Time Marshall and Goldust.
Yep.
Did you notice, and you probably missed it, and I will put this picture up on the show on YouTube, but in that graphic, the bunny is in the background.
Yeah.
With a very clearly photoshopped mask over her face.
Really?
It's so obvious that they just cut out a picture of a mask and stuck it over Ali's face.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, that cracked me up. All right, so the main event, I love the build for this. I thought, Kingston's great on the mic, Moxie's great on the mic. Those two guys delivered. That's they can talk you into a match, right? They can talk you into wanting to see these guys fight. I thought they did a really good job with that. But it was kind of strange because once again, this whole no heels and faces things come into play, because going into that, you would have swore if you had shown that video package to anybody else, the way the commentators were kind of talking about it at the beginning of the match, you were like, Eddie Kingston's the face. 100% Eddie Kingston's the face. And you want to, like, they even said in the video package before, they said, boy, if Eddie Kingston were the win, this would be a perfect, really, feel good story. I'm like, yeah, it would. It totally fucking would. But we all knew that it wasn't going to happen because it wasn't part of their plan. Right? Plan is, and we all know, plan is Moxley versus Kenny Omega, which I'm not opposed to at all. But they accidentally stumbled into what was a really compelling storyline, and they didn't follow through with it.
Yeah.
Eddie Kingston should have won that match.
Yeah, I think so.
That's ridiculous. It's like if Kofi Kingston lost to WrestleMania. People would have been pissed. But that's the story they built up, and people felt good when the story resolved itself because it was a feel-good moment. But instead of that, we got all that build-up, and then they were like, nope, still Moxley. And that match itself, it wasn't super good.
I mean, I thought it was still fun.
I don't know. I didn't think it was as fun as it could have been from those two guys. It wasn't terrible. I enjoyed it, but like it didn't seem like the main event. It didn't seem like it delivered on all the build those guys had done such a good job of giving it, There
wasn't a whole lot of psychology to it, really. It was basically them just trying to maim each other. And I think they kind of went to the barbed wire bat way too quickly in the match as well, and that should have been saved for later on, and made to look like a brutal move, or when you start bashing someone around with it. But that happened within like the first 5-6 minutes or so. And then like Moxley hit him with the baseball bat, and Kingston, he wasn't like showing any cuts from it either. So it's like, well, clearly it's a gimmicked baseball bat as well then. So it just, I don't know, that took me out of it a little bit. But...
Well, there was a bit where Moxley like he gets the bat, he hits Kingston like on in the stomach, and then Eddie's doubled over, so Moxley hits Eddie in the back. So now Eddie's like, his front's wide open. So Moxley like hits him with the bat on like the upper chest,
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I did. He's kind of unwrapping the barbed wire, which, he's very clearly unwrapping the exact piece of barbed wire that Eddie Kingston will need later on.
Yeah.
And Eddie Kingston turns around and he's bleeding from the mouth.
He
didn't hit him in the mouth at all.
I know.
The fuck?
They tried selling it like, oh, he's got internal bleeding. It's like, I'm pretty sure that's not how barbed wire works, to be honest.
But here's the ironic thing. If Moxley had just hit him with a regular baseball bat, he might have had internal bleeding.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it's a barbed wire. So, like, that's the funny thing. If you put barbed wire around the bat, that takes a lot of the force off it. It takes a lot of the if you swing a baseball bat as hard as you can and hit a guy in the stomach, you're going to break his ribs.
Yeah.
If you swing a baseball bat with barbed wire all over it, the barbed wire is just going to get stuck to the skin, and it's going to absorb a lot of the impact. Take it from a man who's hit people with barbed wire baseball bats an awful lot.
Yeah. You're
just better off with a regular old baseball bat. That's my tip for you guys out there if you want to meme somebody. Regular baseball bat, So, like, yeah, there was kind of stuff like that by this point in the night didn't look super amazing.
No.
You know what I mean? And part of that, I think, is because a lot of these guys just they do too much. So by the time it comes to, like, actual important stuff happening, it just it doesn't register because you're like, I don't care. I mean, the finish was fine, but like I said, I feel like Eddie Kingston should have won that because of the build and because of the story. Like, what story did they end up telling?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the story they told was Moxie's still the champion. But, like, so they could have told something really good. But again, that wouldn't have worked because Eddie Kingston couldn't just be a transitional champion. You can't have him beat Moxley and then lose it straight away to Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. But also, you're not going to, guarantee you they wouldn't have been able to make that a long-term program. Eddie Kingston versus Kenny Omega, And it sucks because I felt like when they hired Kingston, I felt like they weren't going to use him right. And then this build-up, this match happened, and I was like, hey, hot damn, they're using him, right? This could be really good. Also, why was he dressed in green on silver? He looked like one of the Power Rangers.
It was a tribute to
Smothers?
A Japanese wrestler. What's his name? I cannot remember. I want to say Mizawa. Is that the one?
It looked really weird.
Yeah.
Given the fact that these guys were having a street fight, that looked weird. I mean, it was a street fight for all intents and purposes. That was a street fight, and that looks weird. Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I'll tell you, you were correct in saying that this pay-per-view was better than their last one.
Mm-hmm.
Easily, hands down.
Oh yeah.
But even then, like, I thought the best match of the night was probably the first match, and then everything after that was just It went from to just like, I don't like this,
Well, I would say there was nothing I actively hated on this show. There was, there's some good match quality. There was, some title changes and whatnot as well. But I think the biggest problem I had with it really was, like, everything felt really predictable. And like, it was obvious that Kenny Omega is going to be like the next title challenger. It was obvious that Moxley needed to be the champion for him to go up against. It was obvious that MJF was going to beat Jericho and become part of the Inner Circle to move that storyline forward. It was obvious that the Young Bucks were going to win the tag titles after they basically said that they wouldn't have another shot at the titles if they lost the match. There was so much on the show which just felt a bit by the numbers, and like there was no risks being taken. And I think that's the biggest problem I had with it, is just you want to see something where it feels like it's unpredictable and you don't know what's going to happen next.
Right.
And we just didn't get that, I thought.
That makes sense, man. I think that also, like, Full Gear High Revolution marks like 1 year since they've been in business, right? Since they've had, basically, pretty much since they've had their TV show. So if you look now, like, Kenny Omega is in prime position to be in the main event. The Young Bucks are the tag team champions. Cody Rhodes has helped build up a new young star in Darby Allin. Doesn't this feel like exactly where they should have been a year ago?
Yeah.
Like, the Dark Order have done, exactly fuck all in 1 year. Like, that is irredeemable. So, like, they haven't really built up anybody new. Darby Allin, I'll give you. All right, fair enough. But, like, Sammy Guevara getting mixed up with all this Matt Hardy bullshit, I'm not buying it. Like, nobody looks good coming out of that, right?
No.
Brody Lee's disappeared. Lance Archer's disappeared. Brian Cage is farting around doing some other bullshit. Like, Hangman Page, he put on a good match, but how many matches in a row has he lost? Like, he doesn't really look like he's going to be the next big star. He's kind of like plateaued as well. Nobody seems like they're in a better position other than the people who were already in a really big position this time last year. Jericho was the champion. I mean, he's plateaued too, but it's Jericho. So, like, his name alone is going to let him get into the main event scene anytime he wants. Moxley was already, a heavyweight champion in other companies by the time he came into All Elite Wrestling. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, they're finally where they want to be. Nobody else has really been built up like a big threat. Like I said, they dropped the ball with like a guy like Brody Lee where they could have had a storyline. They didn't. They've been on TV for a year, but it feels like now it feels like this is what it's should have been and what it's going to be. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I will say I think Orange Cassidy is in a better position now than he was a year ago, but
yes, I'll give you that. He's
probably the exception to the rule rather than
But like, I'll grant you Orange Cassidy. That's one I forgot about. But like, you look at their tag teams, they're supposedly got one of the greatest tag team divisions going today. But like, which tag team would you say is a big deal now that we've had a big year of All Elite Wrestling? Like, who's bigger than the Young Bucks now? Who's on the level of the Young Bucks now? Nobody.
FTR is like the only one I can think of, but then
right, but like they got the Moxley thing, the Jericho thing. They were a big deal before they got there.
Yeah.
Even guys like Santana Ortiz, they were in TNA, but like, what are they doing now? They're dicking around in somebody else's storyline. None of these tag teams have any build or go anywhere. They can have all the tag teams they want, but if you don't use them right, who gives a fuck, right? That was the criticism WWE had. They had great tag teams, but they weren't using them right. And even when they weren't using them right, we still got the Bar versus the New Day and stuff like this. The Usos, there were still good matches. Then these teams got elevated and they were fucking big deals, right? But like, All Elite Wrestling aren't doing that anywhere except for the guys that have already built up.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
Anyway, anything else you want to say about this fun show?
Not especially. I mean, like I say, it was probably my favorite AEW pay-per-view of the year, to be honest. But there's a few finishes I didn't really enjoy, and like I said, the predictability is a bit of a problem as well. But I think, I don't know, it's kind of feels like they've got a plan in place that they're aiming for, which I suppose is a good thing when you look at like WWE, which a lot of the time just looks like Vince is, throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. So it's nice that it feels like everything is kind of building to something in AEW, but yeah, I don't know. There's still a lot about it which just doesn't really sit right.
Yeah, well, let's see where they are this time next year.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun? No? Okay. Yeah, I think we said all we need to say about this show. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it. It was what it was. It hasn't really made me enthusiastic about watching anymore, but it hasn't put me off too much either. So I guess that's a win. I don't know. But that's it. I guess that's the show. That's our show anyway. Thanks for listening, guys. Let me know if you guys agree with any of the stuff we said about All Elite Wrestling, or if you enjoyed the show, if you thought the build was good, if you just are in denial about the whole thing. Feel free to just let us know, comment section, etc. And yeah, dude, thanks for listening, and I guess we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.